Hi, Tom here. I believe that over the course of the semester, I have proven to you that I am not artistic. So, therefore, a creative project like this can be tough for somebody like me. So, I've decided to tailor this project to my strengths in economics. Specifically, I'll be talking about the economic climate of 17th century La Mancha, Spain, and the land protected by Don Quixote. Because part of this class was music-based, I would like to start out with a research observation. My productivity while studying economics went through the roof while listening to the Hamilton soundtrack. So, Don Quixote spent much of his time reading novels of knights errant. He seemed to have a fairly large collection of these books as well. Enough books to drive him mad, in fact. Books used to be really expensive, right? I mean, some sources show that around the time of Don Quixote, books could cost as much as a year's wages. But I didn't see a ton of exact evidence on this. So I decided to ask a question. Would Don Quixote have to be rich to own all of these books? Obviously, research from the 1600s is tough, because most people that were knowledgeable were terrorized by Don Quixote and refused to comment for our research purposes. So instead, I found this guy, John L. Van Zanden, who wrote this, the European Review of Economic History, Volume 3, Number 2, August 1999, pages 175 through 197. In his analysis of the European economy, he published this table. But where is La Mancha? I decided to use the Valencia number, as it is the Spanish region directly next to La Mancha, Spain. Now, we're assuming that in this time, Don Quixote was most likely an unskilled laborer. And this table explains that in the 1600s, the average daily wage of an unskilled builder-laborer was 8.04 grams of silver. What's a gram? Gram. So, how much is this? What can you buy with 8.04 grams of silver? What's its worth? The answer is 10 liters of wheat. Or 17 pounds of wheat, thanks to my trusty wheat calculator. Now, that sounds like a lot. As it turns out, 1 pound of wheat makes about 3 cups of flour. So thanks to Jan L. Van Zanden, we have decided to assume that Don Quixote can buy about 51 cups of flour per day he worked. That number is a lot larger than I originally assumed. So why is that? Let's look at the other countries. Suppose there were a Don Quixote of London. This Don Quixote would make an average of 6 liters, or 10.2 pounds of wheat per day. In the early 1600s, while Don Quixote ruled the lands of La Mancha, Spain had some of the highest wages of Europe. These were even higher than Holland, who was reaping the wealth of the Dutch Golden Age. However, the economic prosperity of Holland pushes its wheat wage up considerably. Don Quixote of Holland can buy about 11.4 liters, or 19.3 pounds of wheat per day he worked. Nonetheless, Spain's economy was just about at its peak influence in the 17th century. It actually declined considerably in the following centuries. So things are looking up for Don Quixote and affording his books. So Don Quixote of London makes 10.2 pounds of wheat per day. So what is this in currency? After scouring study after study, I've found that the price of a bushel of wheat was about 3.77 shillings in 1611 England. A bushel of wheat is 60 pounds, meaning that Don Quixote of London made about 0.64 shillings per day in 1611. Fun fact about 1611, the English translation of the Bible was published and sold for 10 shillings loose leaf, or 12 shillings binded. Now sure, these books were likely mass-produced more than Don Quixote's novels would have been, and they might have been subsidized by the church as well. So this leaves us with a rough underestimate that Don Quixote of London could afford a binded book every 18.75 days of work. But Tom, Don Quixote isn't from London. Don Quixote is from La Mancha. Back to wheat numbers. These wheat figures pertain to the purchasing power of working-class citizens in Spain compared to one in England. So Don Quixote of La Mancha and his 17 pounds of wheat per day can buy a binded book in England for about 11.25 days of work. The median wage for U.S. workers for the first quarter of 2020 was $957 weekly, or $191.4 per working day. On Amazon, the hardcover version of Don Quixote costs $25.47. This is 0.13 working days worth of money. Don Quixote worked about 86.5 times as much as I do for each novel. This is similar to paying $2,200 for a novel, assuming you make the median wage of $49,764 a year. But anyways, I was wrong. Don Quixote didn't have to be extremely wealthy to afford his collection of books. However, a large portion of Don Quixote's wealth was definitely invested into them. This goes further to show that the madness that encompassed Don Quixote. These books were not bought with pocket change. They were collected over a lifetime. But for every negative connotation, there's a positive one. Don Quixote was a collector. He had a hobby. When Quixote's book collection, his life work, was burned, did he really have an option to go back to normal? For Quixote, there was no normal to go back to. Quixote was left without most of his wealth when those books were burned. This could account for Quixote's increased madness throughout the novel. When Quixote proves he is aware of his delusions, maybe he does want to change. It's just too late to go back.